Hello, 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 hello. Are we ready to rock and roll? We are. Hi, gang. Are you ready for the Wednesday poll question? Because here it comes. Agree or disagree, America is under-policed and over-incarcerated. What? Where's that coming from, Michael? Why would you ask a question like that? And by the way, I thought we were over-policed. Agree or disagree, America is under-policed and over incarcerated. First, let me thank my friends at Parks Casino. So I gave you the big news yesterday. Tickets are on sale for Joe Ellis at Parks Casino. She's the opening act coming up for August 21st, Thursday night, August 21st. By the way, I am hoping to be there. I couldn't flat out say yesterday, and I will be there because I have a conflict that I'm trying to resolve. And fingers crossed, I think that I will, because I want to be there. I love the comedy nights at Parks Casino. It's a great deal. It's like $25 and your first drink is free. So, it's like $15, right? Because you know how expensive drinks are these days. So Joe Ellis will be performing at Parks Casino's comedy night with host Joe Conklin and national headliner Ian Lara, who has an HBO comedy special called Romantic Comedy, now streaming on HBO Max and recently having appeared on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. So come out for a night of laughs. Let us welcome Joe Ellis. You know her story. It's an incredible story. Former, editor of the Smerconish.com daily newsletter, Black Hawk helicopter pilot, 16 years in the Army National Guard. And you know the rest of the story in terms of how she was erroneously blamed for that god-awful incident above Reagan National. So Tony Hinchcliffe gave Joe a big break on a recent episode of Kill Tony, and it has kind of launched her. And now she'll be at Parks Casino as an opening act on Thursday night, August 21st. All you need to do is go to parkscasino.com/entertainment, click on the comedy link, and you'll be good to go. We made it easy on my Facebook page. There is a link for tickets, but you need to get a ticket, okay? So go now and get a ticket for Thursday, August 21, 8 p.m., Parks Casino. Come out and mingle and listen to Joe Ellis. By the way, she works a little blue. I'm telling you, she works a little blue if you saw the Kill Tony special. So know what you're in for. You got to be 21. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Yesterday's poll result, 34,758. That's a good vote. We'll take that. 34,758. Should President Trump reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug? 75.66% of us said, hell yes. Make it a Schedule 3, not a Schedule 1. Go in the direction of ketamine, not LSD and heroin. Interesting story that I'll talk about on radio today, a little bit about how in MAGA land, among the president's hardcore supporters, not everyone is on board. And part of the explanation from the Axios coverage is that their perception in MAGA land is that weed is for wussies, right? That's like the liberal intoxicant of choice instead of cigars and whiskey. I thought that was interesting. And speaking of the latter, very interesting story came out today. Polling data from Gallup on those who imbibe. The percentage of U.S. adults who say they consume alcohol is what percent? I'll give you a very, very quick quiz for those who are watching me live on YouTube right now. Just put up a number. What percent of Americans imbibe? What do you think? I was way off. I don't know if that helps it. Okay, so 75%, 70%, 85%, 87%. Who said 50? Nancy Lawrence. Ding, ding, ding. Nancy Lawrence has the correct answer. It's actually 54%. I was much higher. I would have said 75%. So they've been tracking America's habits since 1939, and this is a record low. And if you think that the two subjects that I've referenced are interconnected, more people smoking weed and consequently less people drinking, that's not what they say is going on. That is not what they say is going on. So I'll tell you more about that on radio as well today. But here's the short version of the Wednesday poll question. Agree or disagree, America is under-policed and over-incarcerated. In other words, the U.S. criminal justice system has a mismatch. We've got too few police to adequately deter or address violent crime. The nation is relying too much on tough sentencing and too little on consistent enforcement and detection. Now, if that's true, then it means that the response from Gene Pirro and President Trump rolling out the National Guard and talking about stiff sentencing, the stiff sentencing part is not the answer. Throwing the book at the criminal is not the is not the answer according to this hypothesis. How did I get to this? You may or may not find this interesting, but it will tell you a little bit about my show prep and methodology. I was deliberately looking for a perspective supportive of what the president is doing, rolling out the National Guard in Washington. So, because I thought yesterday, I wasn't adequately able to represent that perspective. So, okay, I went and found a Wall Street Journal editorial, which I'll read later on air. It concluded this way: Mr. Trump loves to cast himself as a man of action, and now he's the top cop. If he really helps to clean up D.C., clearing out homeless camps and making public spaces safer for residents and tourists, he'll deserve our thanks. So I read the Wall Street Journal editorial, which was essentially like, let's give him a chance. Progressives aren't doing anything. There really is a problem in D.C. Let's see where this goes. Then I read the comments. And I see one comment that says, be sure to read Megan McArdle's article today in the Washington Post. The most dangerous and high crime areas of the city are where minorities live and the poor. Trump is doing what Democrats used to always do, protect the poor. So I thought, wonder what Megan McArdle's column says. Now I go to the Washington Post. I read her piece. Essentially, she says that Donald Trump is correct in believing that Washington, D.C. is out of control. His plan to use the National Guard, however, is harebrained. I appreciate her nuance, giving him props and at the same time being critical. It's the way I try and roll. But it is within her piece that there's this reference. As Christopher Lewis and Adner Usmani argued in a 2022 paper, America is under-policed and over-incarcerated. Because we don't have enough police to control crime, violent crime is high compared to the rest of the developed world, and clearance rates are low. We've tried to compensate for this by handing down more severe sentences for those who are caught. Unfortunately, the sort of people who are good at calculating the expected value of their actions tend not to become criminals. So this doesn't work very well. You get the gist? Like, they're not sitting like, I'm going to commit a carjacking. Oh, wait, Janine Pirro just made it, 10 to 20 instead of 5 to 15. That's not the way their minds work. So I thought, okay, this seems really interesting. And I then went and pulled the paper, this scholarly paper from 3 years ago. It was in the American Journal of Law and Equity. And now I went down that rabbit hole. So I start with the Wall Street Journal. I go to Megan McArdle in the Washington Post. Now I'm into this academic journal and trying to understand the argument. The argument is that they challenge the conventional view that we are over-policed and underprotected. Instead, they argue the U.S. is actually under-policed, despite its exceptionally high incarceration rate. And the nation is relying too much on tough sentencing and too little on consistent enforcement and detection. We need more cops on the street This is me speaking, trying to take away what I learned from this academic paper, trying to provide a deterrent. And the idea of always throwing the book is only going to add to the prison population, and it's not going to get us where we need to be. And there's just like a lot of really interesting detail that I learned in this paper. I may get one of these gents on the radio program in the near future to further flesh it out. I'll give you an example. The U.S. incarcerates at a very high rate, but does not have a higher per capita police presence compared to other developed countries. I did not know that. I did not know that. When police presence is measured by the number of officers per homicide, the U.S. has only about 1/9 of the police per homicide compared to the median developed country. Something else that is amplified in this paper that I referenced just yesterday, having had Herman Lopez on, formerly of Vox, now at the New York Times. We don't clear cases. Like, you can get away with murder in this country. We do not have a good clearance rate in this country. More cops would enable us to do so, presumably. And with more cops, there'd be a deterrent, and there'd be fewer crimes actually committed. So it's complicated, but it's provocative, and I think it's a winner of a poll question, and I hope you'll be game to not only vote but to talk about it today. That's where we are. So today's poll question at Smerconish.com: agree or disagree? America is under-policed and over-incarcerated. Pull the story if the Megan McArdle column, if you'd like, and then embedded in it is the academic publication. By the way, one other thing, just speaking of information and accessibility, that I am fine-tuning as we speak. At Smerconish.com, you know that I have the Mingle tab. You know that the Mingle meetups are listed there. And if you want more information, it's easily accessible. And if you want to create one of these organizations organically in your community, there's instruction there on how to do it. Contact information for Bonnie Glushan, who runs that, manages that for us, and she's just terrific. Takes it on because she believes in it, and I'm really appreciative of Bonnie and all the other captains, if that's what I should call them. But there's something else there that we're adding to constantly, and that is the Mingle News links. For the last 2 days, I went through a hard file that I have maintained. Every time I see a story that talks about societal disconnect, The Atlantic, the New York Times, the Washington Post, wherever it may be, Pew Research, Gallup, or an academic publication, I print out a hard copy and I put it in a file. A number of news links have been on the Mingle page, but now we're adding to them with things that I found in the hard file that we never put online. It's a really good repository. And when you look at the links, this is my point, they tell a story. They're like pieces of a puzzle that any one of them doesn't give you the big picture. But when you start flicking through all of them, it's like, wow, it's so obvious. And the examples are so diverse. They're so diverse in terms of what paints the picture of how we've disengaged. So I offer you that as well. Okay. Go vote on the Wednesday poll question. Agree or disagree? America is under-policed and over-incarcerated. If you're not watching on YouTube, you should be. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Appreciate you listening to the Daily Podcast, the Book Club Podcast, TC's podcast. We've got a lot of great content extending beyond the radio program. Like and subscribe if you are watching on YouTube. Have a great day. Set yourself up for notifications. See you, gang.